All right, so this is Adobe Illustrator. I've just made a new letter size drawing, and I brought in the same little seedlings drawing that I did on the whiteboard a couple days ago and demonstrated on Photoshop. Check out that video if you want to. I'm going to use a paintbrush for today's demonstration, and I'm going to make my line color. Main difference in here is we're using vectors. We also, instead of a foreground and background color, we have a line or a stroke and a fill color. You can see that there. And we also have the option for none. So I'm going to take my fill, and you can see it says fill X. I'm going to make my fill none, and my stroke. My screen isn't showing? Oh, sorry. I wasn't presenting. Here we go. There you go. Should be presenting now. I have a fill that is none and a stroke that is black. Okay, that's the big difference. A lot of the tools otherwise are very similar or the same. When I have the brush, I should be able to, it's not showing my brush options because my image is still selected, but I click off of it and then I grab my brush. I'm going to work on a new layer, still have the layers palette, just like in Photoshop. I'm going to lock my picture layer so that I don't put anything on that layer and later I can turn it on and off. Not worried about losing any of my drawing. But I'm just going to very quickly start going over this. And I'm going to show you this method because I really like it. It includes overlapping your lines kind of obnoxiously. And the more obnoxiously you overlap your lines, the better for this method. And I'll show you why, because you're going to want to delete the ends of your lines and other little parts of your lines. And if they're long enough over the edge, you'll be able to grab them easier. So I'm just going to draw this one guy. And notice it gets kind of like crazy as I really overlap these lines. But again, you will see why I am doing this. Really cross them there. And for any shape like this one that I want to fill in, I'm going to come all the way back and cross it over. All right, notice that as I make my vector, Illustrator's trying to kind of like smooth my lines out a little bit, which is nice. It takes a lot of the wiggle out of it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to forget about the roots. Jimmy Fallon would be upset. And I'm going to just use this. Here's what's really cool about vectors. Let's say this whole thing is too tall. You can see the vectors in there. That's all those little red lines that are like in the middle of my line, right? These lines aren't permanent like any other line drawing. They are lines that are meant to be adjusted. And I can change their thickness. Whoa, too thick. I can change the way the stroke happens, which you probably won't see on this 5-point round brush. But if I get an oval brush, you'll be able to see little things like the ends that get pointy. They get more brushy, and the thickness varies, and that could be a cool effect if you like it. That's a little more extreme. I like that. That's a little in between. But the other cool thing is, let me zoom out a little bit. Since I have it all selected, and I did that by just dragging a box around everything, I can adjust all these lines together. I can make my little seed guy a little shorter, a little wider. I think he automatically looks a lot better. All right. And something else I can do is I can take these lines and I can go to object and I can rasterize them. Or I'm sorry, I can object expand them, not rasterize. I don't want rasterize turns them into pictures. When I expand them, look how the vectors change. They are not lines anymore. They're now shapes. And you can see that here as well. These have no stroke and they have a black fill. So we got 29 seconds really quickly. I'm going to show you one other fun thing about Illustrator, why I overlapped them. This palette over here, which is Window Pathfinder, you can divide them, right? Now cuts them all apart and use my white direct selection tool to take parts out and delete them. And you'll see how that helps.